Hello, I'm Nick Harrison with Rocky River Woodworks, and today we are going to build this router sled and runners to be used with flattening a project, live edge slabs or end grain, stuff like that. So that's coming up. So the first thing we're going to do is measure the diameter of the base of your router. In my case here, I'm at about 6 inches, and then we're just going to add about 1/8 of an inch to that. And then we're going to rip down a sheet of plywood to be that base. I'm at using 1/2 inch plywood here. Then we're going to rip down some 2-inch strips. I'm going to rip down 4 of them at 2 inches made out of that 1/2 inch plywood also. These will become the sides of the sled and the runners. The next thing we're going to do is pre-drill and countersink pilot holes to attach the sides of the sled, those 2-inch strips, to the sides of that 6-inch base of the sled that we made earlier. And then I'm just using some 1 1/4 wood screws to tie it together. Now we're going to trace the bottom hole of the base of your router onto the sled. This doesn't have to be perfect, but we are going to trace that out and then drill some pilot holes in each end at the curvature, as I'm doing here, and then cut it out with a jigsaw. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect, but pretty close. The ends are a little bit tricky at the curve because you don't have room to move your jigsaw, but that's what we're going for. Now we need to cut a strip of plywood that is the height of those runners, which is 2 inches, and then adding 1 inch overlap so that it will slide on the runners. The next measurement is to measure the total width of the router base sled. Once you get that measurement, cross-cut it on your miter saw and then pre-drill pilot holes and screw those end caps of the sled into the sled. And then your sled is done. Now it's time to make some runners. The first thing I'm going to do is cut the base of the runner. I cut these at 3 3/8. That's kind of a random measurement, but it can be whatever you'd like. I'm then going to mark the centers of the runners, accounting for that 1/2 inch sheet of plywood. So I'll minus 1/4 of an inch on each side to mark the centers with a depth gauge and a pencil on each side of both of the bases that the runners are going to attach to. Then I'm going to pre-drill and countersink screws through the base into the runners, kind of making a T shape, and screw through the bottom as I'm doing on both of them here. Then I'm going to screw those runners to the table just to provide for a firm surface, and then you're done. Alright guys, so that's the build of the router sled and the runners. As you saw in the video, I made the sled 48 inches long. That might be a little bit too long unless I'm doing a really big live edge slab. You can see it's binding a little bit just because it is so long. But once I put some paste wax or some dry lube spray on here, I think that will help some. And then honestly, even if I'm doing a small project and I don't need the big sled, I don't mind moving it by hand, slightly as needed, and especially once I get that paste wax on there. So once you get everything put together, screwed down to the table where it's definitely held in place, then just put your router bit in here, a surfacing bit. Put it in your sled. Make sure that you're going to get enough on the bottom. We made these 2 inches. This is another 1/2 inch, so it's 2.5 inches off of the work surface. But if that's too much and your bit doesn't reach the top of your project, you can put a 1/4 inch sheet of plywood under your project. You can put a 1/2 inch, 3/4. Just keep shimming it up until you get to that height that you need. You can also make runners that are not as tall or taller if you need taller. So I don't know how this is going to work yet. I haven't tried it yet. It all sounds good in my head, but again, I haven't tried it. I don't have any projects that need it right away, but I do have some that's coming up, which is why I built this. So hope you enjoyed this video, found value in it in some form. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching.